Today I want to talk to you about my favorite tool in my editing software. It's in every single editing suite, no matter how basic. And if I had to pick just one tool to use, this would be it. It has the ability to provide balance and harmony in your composition, to reduce or minimize visual clutter, to dynamically frame your subject, and to optimize your composition. Yes, I'm talking about the cropping tool. Now, hold up, hold up. I'm sure you're saying, I know how to crop, and I'm sure you do. It's a very easy tool to use, but there are some little tips and tricks that I've got up my sleeve that I really think make a big difference. And today I'm going to talk you through my process, how I assess what needs to be done to my image, and then show you the differences that the right crop can make. Hi, I'm Sonia from Flying Parrot Photography, talking all things bird photography. A crucial first step with editing is to have a thorough look, zooming in and out, looking for any dominant or distracting shapes, flaws, and anything being cut off at the edges. I'm looking for problems that I can solve by cropping and how I can best position my subject to minimize flaws. I'm not looking at the image as a bird in the landscape, rather as blocks of shapes and light and how they sit in juxtaposition to one another. It is a bit of a juggling act. It's trying to find the perfect balance where you can minimize distractions by trimming away parts of your photo, but also keeping your subject placed optimally in the frame. Let's slow things down so I can talk you through a bit of my thought process with this nankeen night heron. Looking at the image, we've got a couple of issues. I really like the detail around his little foot here, which I think really adds to the photo, and we've got a nice strong gaze from him, but we do have a really big bright spot over here on the right hand side, and we've also got him right in the middle of the frame. Well, you might be wondering why I don't want my subject in the middle of the frame, and there is a couple of reasons for that. It's called dynamic framing. So what is that? Well, it's the intentional use of an off-center composition, utilizing directional space and environmental context to create energy, tension, or movement within a photo. Instead of placing the bird dead center in the frame, you position it where it enhances the flow of the image, often using the rule of thirds, leading lines, and/or negative space. Well, that's already a big improvement, but one thing that is drawing my eye away from our bird is this wibbly line at the top. So I'm going to crop to remove that and just really clean up my background as much as possible. So here you can see from our original image to our new cropped image how much stronger and more engaging the second image is. You don't always have time to dynamically frame in the field, especially with fast-moving forest birds. Mostly, I keep my focus pointer centered and not framed too tightly. That way, I'm ready for unexpected birds and can give my full concentration to getting my focus sharp and watching my backgrounds. I use dynamic framing 99% of the time. Exceptions are groups of birds, reflections, or symmetry. But there's another important consideration when choosing the placement of your subject in the frame. Another common mistake people make when cropping is not allowing for look room. Leaving look room is allowing for some space in the direction that your bird is looking or moving. And you can see here with our little wren, it just doesn't look visually correct having the bird look into the side of the frame. Look room is a really important factor in a strong composition, so make sure you leave enough room for your bird to look into, move into, fly into. Even a small adjustment can make a big difference. Another thing that we want to avoid is cropping our subject too tightly. Although it's nice to see detail, leaving some space around your subject makes for a more polished image that really draws you into the frame. It can be tempting to crop tightly for social media, but it does look so much nicer if there's some breathing space. But there are times when we want to do the opposite of breathing space. If you have managed to capture razor-sharp details, going to the opposite end of the spectrum and cropping really tightly can be fantastic. This can create a particularly dynamic image as it's showing the viewer details they would never be able to see with their own eyes. Cropping in tight can also help reduce visual clutter when you have a busy background. The key to success is having the eye perfectly sharp. You might have heard the term visual weight, which is a fundamental concept in art and photography that refers to how much attention or importance a visual element draws within a composition. Adding visual weight to your subject is not just about size, but combining the use of colour, contrast, position, detail, and even isolation. How cropping can help is by changing the perspective and priority of objects within the frame. Do a comparison on these photos that have been cropped with visual weight in mind. Does your eye go to the perch or to the bird first? Careful cropping is an easy way to reduce the visual weight of objects within the frame and avoid them competing for attention with our subject, without having to resort to advanced editing techniques. Usually, the subject should be the most dominant object, but not always. In this photo, the white flower holds more visual weight than the small cisticola, but the flower also leads the eye to the tiny bird and tells the story of the delicate size and the habitat of the species. It's all about context and whether or not another dominant object adds to the story or detracts from it. For a deeper dive on visual weight, there's a link in the description to my blog post. When I'm cropping my image, I'm always looking for any extra elements that I can trim away. Simplicity is key to powerful compositions. From bright spots to extra twigs, branches, cropping is your best friend to quickly and easily remove elements that don't add to the story or are distracting. Using dynamic framing and referencing the rule of thirds grid, you can transform an image from average to eye-catching. A common problem in the field is to slightly miss the framing and chop off a small part of your bird. It's so easy to do, especially with birds in flight. The formula for success is to trim away a decent portion of the bird and make it look deliberate. Although I cropped a large piece off this sea eagle's wing, it's giving us a closer look at where the action is with the claws and fish, plus has had the added benefit of removing the distracting background layers. Creative cropping can fix multiple problems within a photo in a few easy clicks. I also look for the opportunity to use leading lines and work them to my advantage when cropping. It's a natural fit to have branches coming from the corners of the frame, drawing your eye towards the bird and creating a nice flow within the composition. Choosing the right proportions for your photo does depend on where you intend to use it, but I do recommend using the set ratios that are available in your editing suite rather than using free-form cropping. Freeform might be okay for artistic experimentation or special use, but it should be the exception, not the rule. The ratios are designed to be balanced and show your work to its advantage. Moving outside of the proportions can make your work look less polished. Specified cropping ratios aren't a creative limitation. They're a framework that ensures your images look good across mediums, remain technically sound, and tell the story effectively. Subject placement, headroom, and direction of gaze all matter, especially for bird photographers, and working within standard proportions makes your composition choices more deliberate and refined. It's a no-brainer, because let's face it, as bird photographers, we already have so many challenges to deal with. Finding new proportions doesn't need to be one of them. Well, that's my tips on cropping. I hope you had time to escape this week and get some practice in. Happy birding and talk to you soon.